Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back with another video about a question I received last night in reference to my other question and answer video. Al Woods Modeling Mayhem says he is fine, thank you, by the way, so do not worry, folks. If you are concerned for his health, he says he is fine. He did ask me a few questions, and I'll just read them off here. Have you ever told us how you got into 40K? I believe I did. However, it has been so long ago that if you ask me to point out the video, I would have to go through my archives to find it, so I'm just going to tell you again here in a moment. So that answers the next part. How did I get into 40K? Well, when I was young and crazy, I decided to join the military and went through boot camp and advanced individual training or job training for the military. And while I was there, a buddy of mine told me about this great game called Warhammer Fantasy. I had never seen a miniatures game before, never played a miniatures game before, nothing. And he handed me a White Dwarf, which back then was their monthly publication. So it was a little bit thicker than what we get weekly nowadays. Read through it. I liked all the stuff that was in the fantasy, but I really liked the 40K side of the house. So, me being a young stupid private, I ordered the big box thing and it showed up in the mail, and I got yelled at by my drill sergeant because you weren't supposed to get packages that big and nobody had told me. Excuse me, guys, I had to take a swig of coffee. But I started playing that, started painting, reading through the rules, seeing what all the rules were, realizing I had to buy a codex, realizing I had to do a couple other things. Then I went into college. Met a few guys who played Warhammer 40K and Fantasy, got into that. Warhammer 40K and Fantasy, and I got into those games, and it was really a good time, especially while I was in college. I had a large amount of disposable income, which, let's be honest, that's what you have in college. If you have enough money, or no bills because you're living at home, which I was, because it was cheaper. So, the games captured me, and I was able to spend a lot of time playing the games, and I enjoyed them. My first actual army for 40K was Space Marines, and I just ran vanilla Blue Smurf Space Marines. Then I got into, after a little while later, I found Space Wolves and got their codex and read through it and fell in love with their fluff and their codex, and I've read a lot of their books, and I just really like the faction. Keep me talking about Space Wolves, and I'll eventually start playing Space Wolves again. Because the models for Space Wolves had enough detail to them that they were interesting to look at, but they weren't just, here's a blue Smurf that I can paint in 3.5 seconds. And at the time, my paint jobs were really horrendous, guys. I mean, it was bad. But I just started. So then I got into the same guy that got me back into 40K when I got into college, found this game called, that was a little while later. So I played the game for a while. I enjoyed it. We went through, I came in at the end of 3rd edition, played through some of 4th edition. Then we started getting into 5th edition, and we were bouncing back and forth between Fantasy and 40K, and me and my buddy both were getting a little bit leery of how the rules were going. We didn't really like them as much, and my buddy, who I like dearly, is a good friend of, or he was a good friend of mine. I haven't talked to him in a while because he seems to have fallen off the radar. Has what I like to call gamer ADD, and he started looking into other games and everything else. He at the time was playing Eldar, which is why you have the Eldar picture up here. He enjoyed the Eldar. I think he really liked how they played. He didn't enjoy, at the time, how easily my Space Marines could walk over him. I tried Grey Knights. He kept playing Eldar for a little while, then he played Dark Eldar, and essentially when our games would play, it would depend on who could shoot the other one better, and generally I could shoot him better, partly because his dice were sometimes terrible, and he would try to kill things with a Bright Lance or a Dark Lance that he shouldn't have been shooting at. He had bad target prioritization. All that aside, we had some capital games, really enjoyable games. We would play till 4, 5, 6 in the morning when I'd get there at 8 o'clock at night, and it was just awesome. Well, then my buddy found a little startup company called Privateer Press. He proceeded to tell me about this company, showed me a rule book. He ordered the very first Prime rule book that ever came out, and showed me a couple of the models that he had. I was hooked. My first faction was Khador. No, not Khador. It was Protector de Menoth. He had me hooked in a heartbeat. He really did. The game flowed well. It was a small size skirmish game. I didn't have to spend a lot of money. Coffee. I didn't have to spend a lot of money. And the models looked really good. And then you got the cards so that I didn't have to buy a codex. I just had to buy the rulebook. And then I had to buy the models. And back then, Warjacks were 25 bucks a piece, maybe 25 bucks a piece. The old pewter ones from Mark 1 that are now the size of a light Warjack. We started playing that and we loved it. Hordes came out and we started playing Hordes. I instantly bought into Trolls just because the models are amazingly good in my opinion. And we played and played and played and played. So to answer some more of his question, he's never played. What is the attraction of Warmachine over 40k? In my opinion, right now, where both games sit, Warmachine has a much deeper rule set to where the interactions and the tactics are a lot deeper and a lot more involved for when you play. Like you can plan, if you want to play a ranged list, you can plan a way to be a ranged list and just a ranged list. And then if you meet a gunline army that can take your ranged stuff on the nose, you're done. I'm sorry, a melee army that can take your ranged stuff on the nose, such as Trolls, you're done. You're going to lose. There's no way around it unless you kill a caster. The other part about it is there is always the win condition in every single game of Warmachine and Hordes. If I kill the enemy general, the game is now over. I win. It doesn't matter if he's up 30 control points, which is redundant, but in 40k I've seen it. It doesn't matter if he's up 40 control points. If I kill his caster, I win the game. I'm done. 40k, however, I've noticed it's a lot. The rules are a lot more cleaner than they were before. However, I haven't seen the depth of this unit can interact with this unit, and then this guy can make this happen, and then this can do this over here, and then if you do this Rube Goldberg machine, you get this really like 4 or 5 awesome things to happen. You don't see that in Warhammer, or I'm sorry, in Warhammer. So, in my opinion, the rules are a big attraction. The models on both companies' fronts are beautiful, especially when painted properly. And that's the big attraction for me from Warmachine to 40k. Now, I do play 40k. I still enjoy my games of 40k. I look at 40k as my beer and pretzels. Hey, I've got 3 hours. I'm going to go to the shop because somebody decided to come over and watch my daughter. And I'm going to go to the shop and get a quick game in, and I may even get 2. I don't know. That's why I enjoy Warmachine. That's why I enjoy Warmachine over Warhammer 40k. Now, having said all that, they're both good games with their own good things in their systems. I suggest people try both games and see what they think. There are demo-sized games you could do for both. I don't think the demos do some of the game's mechanics justice, but with Warmachine you can see the mechanics at a demo level, provided you add some infantry and some solos. With 40k, their little Dark Imperium box that you saw at the start, I believe you have enough to see some vehicle rules, to see everything else to get that started, but I'm not 100% certain, and that is an expensive box to start off with. Having said all that, if you have other questions, feel free to post them. I'll try to do another video when I get more questions. I just felt this one deserved an answer up front, as it was a very good question. Thank you, and y'all have a good one.